Hi there. Welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a question today from Josephine. She says, 2 months ago, I had a very ugly dream in which my son put his fingers in my vagina. Disgusting, I know. I never had intrusive thoughts until that day. At least I think they're intrusive thoughts, she says. Now, almost every day, I see that image in my head. Then anxiety starts with questions like, what if I like that? What if I'm a pedophile? And that's the reason this image keeps coming into my head. Why is this image still there? What if I do something? Then when I see other kids again, I start asking those questions and that image runs through my head. Then I start to cry and feel shame, and it's hard to even tell anyone because I'm afraid of their reaction. I just don't know how to handle it. I love my son more than anything in this world, and I'm a great mother. I know that, and this really scares me. But please tell me what's wrong with me. I'm even scared to have sex with my husband because, again, what if that thought pops in my head? I just don't know what to do. Sometimes I'm scared to just look at my son or other kids because of that thought. So, Josephine, I always want to just reach in ahead and make this look different, because I know with these thoughts, the thought comes up, it's scary, and then there's just meaning and energy and attention just piled and piled and piled and repeated on top of it. And I've been there, and it doesn't take long before you just don't even know what's what. And I hear in your question that you know, and we had a little exchange too, because I wanted to reply before I recorded this. But so I know that you see, and it's so clear in here, you kind of know that this is just a thought, but of course our mind can just psych us out so much. We just get so baffled in what's true and real and not true. So I think the most direct kind of true thing to know is that no thought means anything in and of itself. It doesn't. No thought means anything. Not take in and of itself even out of it. No thought means anything. Thoughts are reflections of other thoughts. They're reflections of pictures. They're reflections of sounds. It's a mind that loves coherence. A mind, just a brain, just a machine that loves coherence and story and continuity and things that seem logical and fit together. That takes these reflections, truly just reflections, takes all that and spins it somehow into this sort of story that ends up like your dream, where there's a storyline and there's an event and there's a thing that happens and then there's all this meaning and judgment on it. That's just what a machine called a brain does. No different than if you put a bunch of random stuff in, a computer. It might also have the ability, AI apparently has the ability to kind of take all that and make some sense out of it. It's a bunch of stuff reflected and put together that gets spit out this other side, and it has no inherent meaning at all. If we could see how meaningless and fundamentally untrue thoughts are, everything changes. Everything. Now, that's a really, really tough thing to see, because most of us, all of us at some point, live immersed and identified with thinking. We think it's true. We think it's who we are. It's not even really questioned until something like this happens. And then we have to question it, which is beautiful, because now you're getting to see it a little differently. So what I also really want to tell you, Josephine, and everyone who's had intrusive thoughts of this nature or of any nature, everything that you are saying here, I have heard before many, many times. Not once, many, many times. So it is so common that what we call intrusive thoughts, which is, again, just a reflection, it's just a picture, just some images, a storyline that pops up in a dream or when we're awake or whatever. It's just something that pops up, and then it gets all this meaning and attention and focus and worry put on it, and it starts to spin into something that feels very meaningful and important, but it's not. It never was, it never can be, it never will be. Doesn't matter how afraid we get of our own thinking, it still isn't true. And it still can't hurt you. It still is not dangerous in any way, and it's not meaningful in any way. A mind with more thought can attach more meaning, but that's just more thought. So no matter how this or any thought feels, there is no fundamental inherent truth or meaning to any of it. No exceptions ever, 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 ever. So there's that. But what I wanted to say is that this is very, very common. When people have what we call intrusive thoughts, almost always they are things that are not at all what we would want to do. And that is why they're often of this nature. Really, like most intrusive thoughts are about hurting someone, often our children, if we have children, hurting someone else, something bad happening to us or someone else, us doing something that we really don't want to do and we have no intention of doing, and it's not going to happen. There's no reality in this. It's not going to happen. But our imagination gives this picture of, oh my God, what if that happened? And what if it meant this? And then we get afraid of that picture. The picture is fine. We get afraid of that picture. The fear is fine too, but it has this way of kind of solidifying the picture in a sense, or making it feel that way. And now this looks really real. Very often of a sexual nature toward children. I mean, a lot. I have heard this. So that alone, I think, is so helpful to see. This has nothing at all to do with you or your son. Nothing to do with what you want, what you care about, what you value. None of it. So we can see this happen, the same process that made this an intrusive thought, in a sense, for you. It happens all the time for all kinds of different things. Like people get freaked out by, say you feel kind of dizzy or lightheaded, and that really shocks you and freaks you out for a minute. And then you think, oh no, what's wrong with me? Again, you aren't thinking this, but this is a mind trying to make sense of things. We go from standing up and feeling dizzy to, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Oh my gosh, maybe I have a brain tumor. Maybe I'm sick. Maybe there's something wrong. Maybe I'm going to faint this was my thing. Maybe I'm going to faint in the middle of my class. Back when I had panic attacks all the time. I'm going to pass out in the middle of class and I'll die here, and everyone will have to step over my body and all of this. And before you know it, it doesn't take long. There's all this energy and meaning attached to what was nothing, what is still nothing. So it happens with anxiety. It happens with depression. It happens with habits. Oh no, why did I enjoy that? Why did I eat that much? Why did this happen? And then we worry, and then we think about it, and then it gets replayed, and then it gets more attention. And then we come to some period of time where we're like, whoa, this is super powerful and it has all this hold on me. No, it doesn't. And no, it's not. It's not powerful at all. It's just reflective thought. It's just reflective thought that's getting repeated. But when we don't see thought as thought, and we think it's true, and we believe the meaning that our mind is attaching, it feels like a nightmare, exactly what you're going through. So just know too, this is not about intrusive thoughts or pedophilia or anything about that at all. It's a much bigger, very simple to understand kind of natural thing that happens. Something shows up completely meaningless and random. It gets a bunch of meaning assigned by the mind, and a bunch of attention is put on it. And then of course it just comes up more. And then if we look at that and say, well, look how much it's coming up, it must mean something. Well, that just keeps the process going. So this means nothing about you. Again, it means nothing about your son. It means nothing about your wishes. It's no different than having a dream about a spider crawling on you and deciding, oh, I must really want spiders to crawl all over me. A mind could come up with that. I'm sure minds have. And people end up with a spider phobia and spider intrusive thoughts. But really, like, we can maybe laugh at that one, and yours doesn't feel so laughable to you, understandably. But I really want you to see that it's the same. So I hope that I've done a somewhat halfway decent job of starting to even point to how untrue and meaningless thought really is, because that's all this is, and that's all it takes for this to start to fall apart. But again, we've been attached to thought most of our lives and all the time, so it's really understandable that it looks and feels, the way that it does. But I hope this is helpful. Listen back to this, really, get curious about it. Look at it in other places of your life, and trust your intuition, because again, I can hear it between the lines in what you shared in your message. I hear it when I talk with people. They know it's not them. That's the funniest thing about intrusive thoughts. Everybody says, this isn't me. I love my kids. I would never do such a thing. I don't like this. I don't want this. Okay, listen to that. All the rest is just a repeated image flashing up, you know. Listen to what you say. You know this. You know that this means nothing deep down. You know that this is not anything you care about or want. So you can trust yourself in that. So I do want to mention too, because I got actually this weekend, over the last 3-4 days, several questions about intrusive thoughts, very similar. I have a Freedom from Intrusive Thoughts course, very, very affordable. It's like $24. If anyone really needs it and can't afford $24, reach out. We'll give it to you. But yeah, it's a great course. I mean, it's like 10 or 12 hours of content. Really, really good. And people have said it's one of the best courses they've done. So there's stuff like that. There's help. You know, all it is, you don't even need help really. It's just being reminded and really seeing, oh, this is just thought. Anything you can listen to that I do points to that fact. So listen to the podcast, listen to Ask Amy's. They're all going to point back to the same thing, because again, this isn't about intrusive thoughts of a sexual nature about my son. It's just thought. It's just the nature of thought and getting caught up in thought. So check out that course maybe, or any of the free content, because there's a lot that can really help this look a lot simpler. So thanks for sending your question, Josephine, and send your questions to Ask Amy at thelittleschoolofbigchange.com, and I'll see you back here next Monday. Thanks, everyone.